What's up guys? Welcome back to Madman Music. In today's video we're talking about 10 things that will most definitely ruin your guitar. Let's get into it. Alright guys, welcome back. Here we are, we're back in the studio. I'm pretty excited. This is my first little video. I just kind of thought, considering the fact that we had this big flood and there was this very strong possibility that my stuff could have gotten totally ruined here in my little basement studio, I thought that maybe it would be fitting to do a little video talking about some of the things that might ruin your gear. First and foremost, you know the drill. If you're new around here, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We are always talking about really cool gear-related content here on the channel, and I'm always trying to teach you in a way that's slightly entertaining. Starting off at number 10, we've got, if you are rocking a guitar without strap locks, you are making a massive mistake. Especially if you're one of these guys that's doing all the crazy flip tricks, the metalcore stuff. If you're the kind of guy that wants to do a lot of really crazy performance type stuff on stage or even in your bedroom, wherever you are, if you like to move around when you're playing your guitar, please get yourself some strap locks. One of my favorite types of strap lock is just the typical Schaller strap lock. It's nice because it actually sits down inside of this sort of U-shaped cup, right? So it creates this little bit of a support system for the guitar itself. So when you put the strap onto the guitar and it feeds into this little support piece, it actually can't go anywhere. It just goes down. Gravity will keep it in place. It's also locked with a little locking mechanism, but just the fact that the weight of the guitar holds it down inside of these locks makes all the difference. There's a lot of different strap locks out there. These are by far my favorite. I have tried a lot, and a lot of them have over time failed. For instance, Dunlop strap lock. Oh, number 9. When you're cleaning your guitar, don't use heavy-duty chemicals. Inappropriate cleaning supplies on your guitar are definitely gonna mess something up over time. The finish on your guitar is fairly fragile in some cases, depending on the make and brand and also what type of finish is on that guitar. You want to be very careful to use an appropriate cleaner for your guitar. If you're not using something, say, like a regular old guitar cleaner / polish thing, don't go into your household good cupboard and try to find stuff that you clean your house with to put on your guitar. Do not do that, because in most cases it's ill-advised. If anything, if you don't have something like this, just get yourself a little spray bottle, put a little bit of water in it, and a drop or two of dish soap. Because dish soap is actually pretty gentle. It does still eat away the oil, which is kind of what you're going for, but there's nothing in it that's too harsh that's going to ruin your finish. And another little pro tip, if you have a matte finished guitar, like I do, this is probably one of the best cleaners for it, because the reason why you see finger smudges on a matte guitar is basically just because of oil from your fingers getting onto the guitar. This will take care of that. Number 8, putting stickers on your guitar. Now, I know that, for some of us, stickers are a cool thing. They're a form of expression, and yes, sometimes guitars look really awesome when they're just covered in stickers. But you need to understand that's probably gonna do some real damage to the finish of your guitar. And if the glue from the stickers doesn't already ruin or discolor the actual finish on your guitar, then if ever you wanna take those stickers off, the whole process of getting all of that adhesive off of your guitar will then likely probably ruin your guitar. So, unless you're using a kind of sticker that has a sort of a mild adhesive, there are some of these sort of window stickers that they stick just fine, but they're easy to peel off. I would recommend those out of most anything else. But, again, everybody has that time in their life where they have a guitar and they're like, oh, let's put a bunch of stickers on it and make it look awesome. Sure, I did that too. I had an old Jackson Randy Rhoads when I was young. Andreas Kisser from Sepultura rocks a Randy Rhoads and it's just covered in stickers, and I was like, I want to be just like that dude, and so I covered my Randy Rhoads full of stickers. But later on, I eventually decided that I didn't want all these stickers, because not all of the stickers were very cool, and I guess my taste kind of changed a little bit. And when I went to take off those stickers, all it did was leave scrape marks and this and that. Now, mind you, maybe I didn't do it the right way, but I'm just telling you right now, you might as well just avoid it at all costs if you can help it. Now again, if you want to have a cool looking crazy collage of stickers, that's just fine. That's your thing, but just be mindful that if you ever go to take those things off, you run a really, really good chance of ruining the finish on your guitar. Keep that in mind. Number 7. For those of you that have ever seen, the rock stars while they're jamming out on stage, and then they take their water bottle and they just pour it all over themselves, and it's all over their guitar, and it's everywhere. Don't do that. That's a horrible idea. Like, I really don't understand why people do that. I guess the rock stars, maybe they're able to do that because, they can afford new guitars, or they get guitars given to them or something like that. But I promise you, in the long term, that's not going to be something you want to really do. If water gets down into, say, the pickup cavity of your guitar, gets inside, it can wreak havoc. If that moisture's getting inside of your pots and your volume knobs, like your tone and your volume pot, over time that's going to cause some oxidation and some rust, and it's going to make noise. And, whatever. Maybe it's an easy fix, but still, it's like you probably really don't want to have to go through that. Now, when I'm performing, I sweat a lot, and it goes all over my guitar, and yes, my guitar gets wet, but I'm talking about substantial amounts of liquid. Try to avoid dumping water or beer or whatever kind of liquid that you might have around you that you decide you might want to douse your body with. Just don't do that, because if it gets inside, it's going to wreak havoc on the inside of your guitar, and you probably want to just avoid that. And now, a word from our sponsor. If you guys are enjoying this video, please do me a massive favor and hit that like button. Drop me a comment down below. Tell me about what kind of stuff has happened to your guitar that you probably could have avoided. Let me know down below. Also, if you're a returning visitor that hangs out with me on a weekly basis and enjoys the content that I put out, please consider becoming a patron. I've just recently revamped all of the tier rewards on my Patreon page that I think there's a little something for everybody. So go over there, patreon.com/madmanmusic, and check it out. Moving on, number 6, don't store your guitars in a damp, humid place. I feel like I'm probably the last person that should be giving this advice, considering I'm literally in the basement of my house right now. My guitars are right there, and it does get kind of humid down here. But the way that I control that is either with a dehumidifier, some fans that can just keep the air moving, and or keeping the windows open. Now here in Germany, we don't really have central AC, and throughout most of the year, you don't really need it. It's generally pretty cool for the most part. We do have some warm months in the summertime, but for the most part, it's fairly cool, and I can get away with keeping the windows open. So generally down here, my windows are cracked open, letting some of the air come through, and I also use some sort of ventilation fans to keep the air moving. But you definitely do not want to allow your guitars to sit in a very humid environment for all too long. And this is for most of the reasons as my last point. You just don't want this moisture getting inside any of the little metal parts. You want to avoid oxidation. Everybody hates picking up that guitar where the strings are rusty and the bridge is all corroded and gross. Like, nobody wants to touch that. Nobody wants to play that. You shouldn't want to play that. So the best way to avoid that, keep your guitar in somewhat of a dry environment. If you have central AC, you're probably already fine. Most houses with central AC are regulated in a way that the humidity is pretty well taken care of. But for those that don't have central AC, dry places, or at least areas that are well ventilated. And moving on with storage, we have number 5. Avoid keeping your guitar stored in an extremely cold place. Alright, I don't know if anybody realizes this, but when your guitar gets hot and cold, it actually does sort of move. It swells up and it shrinks down, and it's changing all the time. It's a piece of wood, you know what I mean? Unless you're playing a guitar that's not a piece of wood, which there are nowadays, there are a few different types of guitars that aren't wood, that this would have no effect on. But for the 98% of the other people in the world that do have guitars that are made out of wood, avoid keeping that guitar in extreme cold temperatures. Because what can happen is, as the body shrinks or swells, you run the risk of it actually cracking your finish on your guitar. So if you like the finish on your guitar, please do me a favor, try to regulate that temperature. It's going to go back to like the last point where I mentioned if you have AC and you can keep that guitar in a climate controlled environment, you're going to be better off. Continuing even further to talk about storage, number 4, do not keep your guitar in an extremely hot place, because this is probably, in my opinion, even worse than a cold place. When it gets extremely hot, you're talking about things getting warped and bent out of shape. Do not leave your guitar in, say, like a hot car in the middle of a summer day. Don't do that. In the same vein as keeping it in a cold place, you're going to wind up ruining either your finish, or you're going to wind up having the neck maybe swell. Sometimes the fretboard will swell or shrink. It pushes out your frets. These are things that you don't want to happen to your poor guitar. Unless you like your guitar looking a lot like a boomerang. Then, leave it in the car for a little while. Number 3. This kind of, I feel like this one goes with definitely without saying, but don't leave your guitar outside for a number of reasons. For one, maybe somebody will steal it. That would suck, so don't do that. For 2, it could get rained on. For 3, a dog could pee on it. There's a number of reasons why you should never leave your guitar outside. There could be a natural disaster. It's just ridiculous. Don't leave your guitar outside. It's silly. Now, this one really makes sense. Now, some of them, they're a little far-fetched, and a lot of them are common sense. But the top 2 here really need to be driven home in a big way. The number 2 most likely scenario to ruin your guitar is moving around with that guitar without that guitar being in a case. Now, it's really simple. There's all kinds of cases out there. There's soft cases, there's hard cases, there's cases with wheels, there's cases that are backpacks, there's double cases, there's triple cases.
Pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp, shrimp soup, shrimp stew.
There's all kinds of cases out there, and there's really no excuse. You should never be traveling around, or even from like your house to your friend's house, without that guitar being in some kind of a protective case. Even if it's just a gig bag. Gig bags work great. I have toured with just regular old soft gig bags for years, and it was fine. Just because we were in such a confined space, we actually couldn't really fit hard shell cases in some of the tour vehicles that we were using, that we were sort of forced to use gig bags. Well, be careful. Don't stack anything on top of your guitar at that point. But if your guitars are set sort of on the top of whatever else you're loading, like your amps and whatnot, if it's stored on top of that, you're going to be okay. You know what I mean? At least it's got that little bit of padded protection that it's not getting banged around. You're going to save the finish on your guitar big time. However, it is much more recommended to have a hard shell case of some sort if you are moving around, because that will give you the best amount of protection possible. And finally, the number 1 reason why most guitars get completely up is when people don't use guitar stands. Do not, I repeat, do not lean your guitar up against your amplifier or the wall or your dresser or wherever you are. Don't lean your guitar up against anything. For $10, you could invest in a very simple guitar stand that will keep your guitar from falling on the ground all the time. It drives me batshit when I see people not using a stand. Now, do I lean my guitar from time to time? Yes, of course I do. But my guitar never stays leaned. For instance, if I'm gonna lean it, it's for a minute. It's for a temporary amount of time. I'm not leaving that guitar sitting there leaning up against my amplifier or something. It's never there for an extended amount of time. I'll only have it lean for mere moments. Otherwise, it's going to be very safely kept in some kind of a stand or a guitar boat. It's going to be protected. This is the number 1 thing that you can do to keep your guitar from getting ruined in any way. Whether it's the finish being protected, or it's keeping the setup good. Using a stand similar to this one, where the guitar will literally sit right down inside of this thing, is the best thing that you can use. For one, it supports the guitar from the back right here, from the body and not the neck, and they're really affordable. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a handful if you have more than one guitar. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a stand per guitar that you own. If you don't, I will link a few down below. You can check them out, pick them up, and protect your gear. Alright, so that's my kooky list of some things that will definitely ruin your guitar. As I mentioned before, if you have some more reasons, drop them down in the comments. Let's talk about some of the things that we can avoid in order to take care of our stuff. Thank you again for watching, and we're going to see you in the next video. Peace!
Oh no!